We're going to begin Chapter 6, which is Analytical Attribute Approaches, Introduction, and Perceptual Mapping. What you're going to see in this chapter are a lot of different graphs and charts putting attributes and overall similarities on different charts. So just get to look at them and review them in the book and get an idea of what they're talking about. But basically, it's just different ways of charting or plotting information. So let's just go through them. So what are analytical attributes? They're the basic idea. Products are made up of attributes, which is a future product change must involve one or more of these attributes, and one of those three are a feature, a function, or a benefit. So, and the sequence goes like this: a feature permits a function, which then provides a benefit to a customer. So that's kind of the way that goes. And what is gap analysis? It's a determinate gap map. We're going to see this in a different chart, produced from input from the manager and a judgment on the product. There's two different things that you're going to, two abbreviations you're going to see in this chapter. AR, which is an attribute, stands for attribute ratings by customers, and OS, perceptual map, which is the overall similarity. So we're going to see attributes charted and plotted. We're going to see similarities charted and plotted. So we're going to see that pretty much from the rest of this chapter. Okay, a determinant gap map. And what they're doing is they're plotting different things on this chart. Crunchiness would be the higher part of this chart would be high crunchiness. Low crunchiness would be on the lower part of the chart. Nutritional value, high would be to the right, high nutritional value. Low nutritional value would be charted to the left. So that's how that works. And they just put them where they think it's appropriate. A data cube. It's just another way of plotting information. So there's attributes and there's the number of respondents and the different options that can be plotted on here. It's not as clear or concise as some of the others, so I'm going to pass over this one, but it is in your book, Figure 6.3. So obtaining customer perception. So here is a chart or a questionnaire, and there's a number of different attributes that on this one is 1 through 15. And they can circle if they disagree, which would be closer to the 1. And if they agree, it would be a higher rating of 5. So this is just a survey. Okay? This is called a snake plot of perceptions. And the reason why they call it a snake plot is because when they chart the lines, it almost looks like a snake going back and forth. And they're looking at 3 different products: Aqualine, Islands, and Sunflare. And the number of attributes and the ratings that they got from the questionnaire. So they're just plotting this on a chart. Okay, data reduction using multivariate analysis. So what does this mean? That there's 2 different sections of this. There's a factor analysis and a cluster analysis. One is based on the factors, and it reduces the original number of attributes to a smaller number of factors, so it can be manageable. So they're trying to reduce all of this information and data that they're getting and trying to organize it in a way that you can interpret it. Cluster analysis reduces the original number of respondents to a smaller number of clusters based on their benefits sought, as revealed in the ideal, parentheses, ideal brand. Okay, and this is in the book too to get more information. So, what this is showing you, selecting the number of factors, 2 different things here. Actually, it's 2 different charts. One is called the eigenvalue, and the other one is they're using what they call the SCREE, or factors that are before that. So on this one, they're showing anything that is above the value of 1.0 would be what they would consider as useful information. And that's where that SCREE line is. And what you see is the number 1 and 2, 6.04, and the second one, 3.34, fall into that range. And that is in the SCREE also. So you can see both of these charts are kind of talking to each other just plotted in different ways. Factor loading matrix, they're just looking at the attributes and the two different factors. They're talking about fashion versus comfort, and they're comparing the two. That's basically all they're looking at, and they're putting a value on it. Same thing here, fashion versus comfort, and they're scoring them. They're giving them a score based on those questionnaires that we saw before. So the AR, or attribute rating, is plotted on a chart. And they're looking at what we just talked about before, the comfort, which is the higher level, and fashion. So if it's high fashion, it would be to the right. If it's high comfort, it would be to the top. And there's two different gaps right there, gap 1 and gap 2. Just another way of plotting information. Now they're going by dissimilarity matrix. So things that are not the same, and they're comparing 4 different, I think these are bathing suits, so they're comparing those and rating them. Okay, OS stands for overall similarity, and they're looking at comfort versus fashion, and they're just plotting it on a chart. So now we compare the attribute rating, or the AR, and the overall similarity, or the OS method. So they're comparing these two by the input required, analytical procedures used, graphical output, and where it's used. So they're giving this information and comparing the two. What are the failures of gap analysis? Well, the input comes from questions on how brands differ. Brands are considered as a set of attributes, okay? And analysis and mapping may be history by the time data are gathered. So it could be old information before they even look at it. And this information just might be a turnoff to people who are not analytical and really can't see it plotted on a chart. They're more perceptual perhaps and want to see it versus seeing mathematical graphs. And that's the chapter.